world's most respected MMO news site, Massively Overpowered, comes a programme that pits one MMO against another in a battle of wits. To the death. Welcome to Massively Opinionated. Media personalities from all over the internet come to this forum to face off in the ultimate debate. Everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion, but ours is the only one that matters. Having heard that someone was wrong on the internet, it's your host, Larry Everett!
Hey everyone, this is Larry Everett and you are watching Massively Opinionated on Massively Overpowered. And today we have a very special debate. We are talking all about Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I have pulled three people that are prominent members of the Star Wars: The Old Republic community, and we're going to discuss and debate what are the best things about the game, what are the worst things about the game. And first on my list, I have from Corellian Run Radio and her blog Pretty Little Sith, it's Heather. How are you doing?
Good. I am awake at, well, I guess a lot of people stay up way later than me. It's 10 p.m. for me, West Coast of the United States, and I'm pretty tired, but wait till you hear about what time everyone else is awake.
That's right. Because from in Europe, in Bulgaria, we have one of the prominent members of the community who does videos all over the place. His name is Vulkk, or Alexander, Kostadinov, right? Did I say that right?
That's right.
All right,
Yeah.
Excellent. Good to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. Hi, guys. Good morning for me.
Good morning, that's right.
What a good evening for you.
And then also from the East Coast of the United States, we have from It's a Trap podcast and from his Twitch channel, R3D4, it's Redna. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Great to see you again.
Yes, we are. I'm really excited about this because, I mean, obviously anybody that knows me knows that Star Wars: The Old Republic is my personal favorite game at the moment. It's the one I've been playing the longest, and I'm really glad to debate all the good and bad stuff that's happening in the game right now. But first, let me go over the rules. This might be the first time that some of these guys are hearing the rules, and if this is the first time you're watching, this will give you an understanding of what we are doing here. I have given these guys 4 questions before the show, and they sent me the answers. I'm going to, just so I can check to make sure that, you know, we'll have a pretty good debate going on here. And for each question, I will award one of the guys a point based on their arguments. And then at the end of the show, whoever has the most points will win the internet for a week, I guess, or something along that line. It's for fun, right? Points don't actually matter, but it's a lot of fun to have them in there. So if for some reason there is a tie, which there could be, I do have a bonus question that these guys haven't seen yet for a tiebreaker. So at any rate, let's get started with question number 1. And I want to start positively. I don't want to, start off on a bad foot. We want to jump in and, explain to everybody what is the most compelling reason to play Star Wars: The Old Republic. And I'm going to turn to Heather first. And what is your most compelling reason to play Star Wars: The Old Republic?
I guess the easy answer would just to say, oh, well, it's Star Wars. But, I mean, that's not why I started playing. I personally didn't start playing because I was a Star Wars fan. I started playing because I was watching someone else play, and he had a cool companion named Mako, and I'm like, well, what the heck? What are these cool cutscenes and all these cool stories that his character is going through? I want to play. And so I think what really is the most compelling reason to play SWTOR is not just that it's Star Wars, because there's so many Star Wars video games out there, and it's not. I don't think it's actually the endgame PvE content. I think World of Warcraft actually does that better. But I think
for shame.
I think
Disagree.
the most compelling reason for SWTOR is the stories, playing all the class stories, and making 16 alts, which I don't personally have. I'm in there for the end game, but I think that is the most compelling reason. I think that's the most common reason that people play Star Wars: The Old Republic.
All right. Well, you're going to have to debate that point, possibly, sort of, kind of, with Vulkk. What is the main compelling reason that you picked, and why?
The first sentence would be, I guess, the same for all of us. It's Star Wars. My reason to start playing is not because I watched someone else. I've been following the game since before it was talked about, since it was a rumor. I was still very active back in Star Wars Galaxies when we started hearing the rumors about the possibly new MMO game in the Star Wars universe. I believe the first rumor I heard was in around 2006. Of course, nobody believed it. We were still happy with the NGE crap that was called Star Wars Galaxies. In 2008, obviously in November, the website launched. The developers allowed everybody to know and understand that there's really going to be a game. And of course, I've signed up to the website and I've been waiting patiently or impatiently sometimes. Star Wars is my biggest, not exactly hobby, but maybe passion when it comes to movies and internet. And I really wanted to play it since Star Wars Galaxy died, and I was never a fan of WoW or any other game, as a matter of fact. In my MMO life, I've played only 3 Galaxies, SWTOR, and now the Old Republic. I really love it. I'm sure we can debate that it's not the best one. It has 1,000,002 bugs, maybe 3 bugs. You know, a new bug appears every day. So if you're watching this 2 days from now, there will be 1,000,004 bugs available in the game. It's still my favorite, mostly because it's Star Wars, mostly because I have many of my friends still playing it, thank God.
All right, so we'll stick with Star Wars. I think that just the IP in and of itself.
That's what I said. That was the easy answer. It was Star Wars, simply. But I tried to give some.
No. I think we'll find differentiation here within your guys' answers because Redna's is slightly different. So I'm going to go ahead and Red. What is the compelling reason that you picked?
It ties into the fact that it's Star Wars, but it's much more than that. First of all, there's a reason why this game is growing month to month, and most other MMOs are dwindling. We now know that World of Warcraft is back down to their 7 million mark, which was what they were pre their expansion. Our expansion came out, and we continued to grow. And I've never played an MMO that didn't have bugs. I've never played an MMO that, the developers actually made their player base happy. Quite frankly, haters gonna hate. It's just a fact. But the thing that I love about this, and quite frankly, if you like good storytelling, it is absolutely the best storytelling in any MMO environment ever. Undeniably. With cutscenes and voiceovers that no one else has even attempted to duplicate. Beyond that, what has gotten me really excited, and part of this is absolutely self-serving, but in doing a Star Wars canon podcast, the discovery that quite literally there are authors and writers contributing to Disney's canon for Star Wars that are pulling material directly from this game. So while you might be playing a game that is in a Legends label, there is a good opportunity that the things that you're going to see, experience, participate in even concepts from the storytelling and the lore will be brought into the greater Star Wars universe itself. And who knows what happens in December if we see any tie-ins with that. And that's a huge reason, at least until December, you should totally get in here and experience all of this and see what might actually happen going into Star Wars itself as it grows and grows and grows and grows and becomes a much, much bigger IP than it is now. And right now, it's gargantuan. So I'm gonna. So the way that I've kind of broken this down is that Heather is in it for just the storytelling itself. So like the way the stories are told. Although I mean, there's a little bit of Star Wars, but that only relates to how the stories are told.
and then Vulkk is just the Star Wars IP itself. Like, that by itself is the most compelling reason to join the game. And then the way that I see Red's argument is that we're talking about lore. We're talking about the Star Wars lore, not necessarily the storytelling, but the
it's the storytelling.
Well,
too.
I mean, it's
undeniable
right.
that any BioWare game, if you're going to play a BioWare game, even if it's not an MMO, I mean, that's a draw of BioWare. They tell great stories.
Yeah, but the lore itself, the thing that the wrapping on top of the storytelling is very compelling, and that would be the most compelling. That's what I'm the way that I see it. So to differentiate and to kind of make a call as to which one. Since Star Wars is clearly a very compelling reason, I do want to kind of differentiate a little bit further, if I could, between what Heather's saying and what Red's saying. And would you say that, Heather, would you say that the storytelling itself, if it was a different intellectual property, would it be just as compelling for you, and why would it be just as compelling on a different IP?
It would be just as compelling for me, just because, I have to admit, I wasn't, a huge Star Wars fan. So when I play things like the Republic Trooper or the Imperial Bounty Hunter, I mean, a lot of those stories, it's not, all lightsabers and Sith and Jedi. It's a lot of just science fiction kind of things, and I still enjoyed those stories very much. And I mean, I don't know, you could make those stories not Star Warsy, and I would still like them just because of how they were written and the types of things that the characters go through.
So, is the character development then, is that really important, or where does that fall on your scale?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I like to play games where the character that you're playing, they're the star of the game. I like things like, I don't want to say all the games I like, because then I'll just get made fun of, after this. But I don't like to play things where it's just like, oh, well, you're just another little thing. You're not a hero. You're just a character. But Star Wars: The Old Republic, it makes you feel like you're your character's the hero. You're seeing all these cool things happen to them, and I like games like that. I like when there's a main character, not just. I mean, I like Skyrim just as much, but you are the main character. You're the Dragonborn. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I do like that game too. But I don't like things like, for example, Call of Duty, where you're just there.
You're just some dude.
People.
Okay, all right.
People.
So would you? Okay, so. For you, Red, then, is it important that it is a Star Wars game versus any other sci-fi genre or anything like that?
What is the most compelling reason to play Star Wars: The Old Republic?
Yeah.
It's because you can play Star Wars. Yeah, Star Wars is a part of it, but more importantly that... Just like she said, that I think it's necessary that it be a part of Star Wars, quite frankly, particularly with the environment that we're in and the cultural transition and embracing, quite frankly, geek culture is at a high today that it hasn't seen in years and years and years within the United States. And quite simply, Star Wars itself is not a United States phenomenon. In fact, there are other countries that I think the fandom might be higher. But Star Wars is a big deal, and when you can play in a game and have those highs, have that character development, feel like you're contributing to an overall story that is playing out on a galactic level, particularly with the latest expansions that have come out, and how that story ties into the greater picture with your character. And yes, it's definitely deeply compelling to be able to be tied into it, but I feel like the opportunity for somebody who hasn't played this game before to draw others in, Star Wars itself is important. And then the storytelling itself is quite relevant, and there's just so much longevity, first of all, playing through all of that story, but then beyond that, the fact that if you start to fall down the rabbit hole, there's so many places you can go with it, and even outside the game itself. And you start to play the game more and more and more in order to find out what you can discover that actually applies outside, and you can envision your character actually having, a legendary title that actually transcends over the generations, the 1,000 generations from a bygone age of the Old Republic that Obi-Wan talked about in A New Hope. I think it's nice to feel like you can tie into that very, very large, epic Star Wars storytelling that is not just sci-fi, but is also fantasy. It is also religious. It is so many different compelling forms of fiction that Lucas brought together in that Star Wars label that, I quite frankly don't think that they could duplicate it outside of the Star Wars IP, because the Star Wars IP was established so effectively, and it's undeniable. It's the greatest movie franchise in history by any rubric. Whether or not you like the films, it's still the biggest, greatest franchise in history.
However, I have to argue with that. I mean, if Star Wars is so huge, why is SWTOR not number one, hands down?
It's because of the hype before the launch of the game, my personal opinion. It was way overhyped and people started hating it, just like every Star Wars product. That's one of the reasons Episode 1 was very, very hated. It wasn't such a bad one. Jar Jar is not the worst character in the universe.
Oh my gosh. But, that's blasphemy. No,
are you turning me off now?
No, go ahead. No, I'm interested to know how, because the Star Wars IP, I separate in this. I separate the Star Wars IP from the Star Wars lore in a sense, because a lot of people are happy with just knowing about Darth Vader, or just knowing about Luke Skywalker, or just knowing about like small segments of the lore, which I consider just, that's what makes Star Wars. And where Red was talking about how it's really cool to be encompassed within the larger picture and the legendary stuff. And so what I'm really interested to hear from you, Vulkk, is to kind of differentiate between what Red is saying and what you're saying is, how is the IP itself more compelling, and what kind of stories have you heard about, people's interest in this game, because you're talking about the hype and stuff beforehand, that isn't necessarily about the lore, but about the compelling reasons behind wanting to play the game just because it's Star Wars. You got examples of things you heard, or things that you maybe have done?
I probably won't be able to pull exact examples and quotes, but one thing I'm sure, my audience and the people I have contacted, the people I have asked, and they have told me, most of them come because of the title. Nobody cares what's in the game. Everybody hears, oh, there is a Star Wars game, I have to try it. Later, they might decide, I enjoy that, I love it. Oh, it's my favorite MMO. Wow, that's the first time I ever play an MMO. What's an MMO? And everybody comes for the title. There is a small percentage of those people who research the game. They check the raids, the PvP, the leveling process, the story, the lore, and everything else, because the game does offer a lot for both casuals and hardcores. But in my personal opinion, like 80% of the people come here because they've heard there is a Star Wars MMO. Even today, 3.5 years after the initial release, people still come to the game because of the title. Not because of the content or because of the advertisement. God forbid, there is less than zero advertisement for this game. What's wrong with BioWare?
I guess I just must be in the minority. I must actually like the game for what it is, and not just because it's Star Wars.
Yes, but you are here. You came because you saw someone playing it and you enjoyed the gameplay. You're exactly the minority, in my personal opinion. You're one of these players who got attracted by the gameplay or the mechanics, or maybe the story you saw when you first touched the game. I believe, as a Star Wars fan myself, people come for the title.
Okay, I'm going to give each one of you guys like a minute to just kind of make a final argument regarding your stance on it, and then I'll make a decision on it. So, Heather, go ahead. I'll give you about 60 seconds. Go ahead.
That's way too long. I've been
okay, 30 seconds.
I don't know. I guess I'll have to agree that it's Star Wars. Yay!
No, you don't have to. No, please don't give up. Keep going. I mean, tell me about the story itself and why is that? I mean, okay, so there is definitely a.
I've tried other MMOs
Yeah.
since playing SWTOR, and it's just, I really liked Skyrim, and I tried Elder Scrolls Online. I really wanted to like the game, but it didn't do it for me. Like, the first second I was in Star Wars, well, not the first second, but the first 5 minutes, I'm in Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I'm playing an Inquisitor, and that, whatever his name is, that guy, he's telling me, oh, you slave, you're never going to do anything right. Like, that got me in the first 5 minutes, and then, I don't know, just anything else I've played, like, they didn't hook me right away. I tried WildStar, which, I guess there's a lot to say about that anyway. But I didn't like it, even as cute as my character was. There was nothing talking to me. I had to read the quests, which, I guess I'm just so spoiled by by SWTOR and World of Warcraft. I haven't played anything past level 1. I just was killing bunnies. And so, I mean, I didn't care. There was just some little NPC with text on the screen, and here's SWTOR, this game where there's people moving, talking, cinematics, just like watching a movie on your computer, except you're playing a game and you're participating in it. And I guess it doesn't really matter if I had a lightsaber. It sure helps a lot, but take away my lightsaber and I still would really, really, really like the game.
All right, Vulkk, go ahead. Hit me one more time with why the IP is the most important.
I would like to draw the last sentence that Heather said. Having a lightsaber, it's not exactly the most important for playing in Star Wars: The Old Republic, but it's important that you are in a Star Wars universe. You may not wield the lightsaber. For me, also, that's not the most important fact, but it's fun to see real Jedi around me. The title or the IP is the most important because it draws you in. The story is fantastic, but as I mentioned before, it doesn't allow you choices. They are fake choices. You have options 1, 2, and 3, but in more than half of the dialogues and occasions, the choices mean absolutely nothing. And if you just cancel the cutscene and you start it over, you'll see that the end is absolutely the same always. Sometimes you're rewarded light side, dark side. Who cares? Okay, sorry, someone cares.
Red might care. Red, what? Give me 60 seconds. Go ahead with your argument.
There's absolutely no question that putting Star Wars in front of it makes people consider it. But there's an absolute reason why the story is what keeps people through. There's a reason why more people do alts in this game than virtually any other MMO. There's a reason why it's the most pleasurable, easy, incredible leveling experience of any MMO I've ever played, and enjoyable, and that's because it's great storytelling. But you need Star Wars to draw them in the first place.
Yeah, I'm going to break the rules, and I'm totally going to agree with you.
I think Redna's answer is a good mix between.
Well, this is kind of.
Just win.
So this is what I was gonna go with. I think that. So the thing with Vulkk's answer, which I really like, is that it is a compelling reason to get into the game. I think that time has kind of proven, and although this wasn't one of your guys' arguments, but maybe you should have considered it. Is that time has kind of proven that Star Wars isn't a sticky product necessarily. It's enough to get you in, but not necessarily one to hold you there. However, Heather had the rights. Was definitely on the right track with the storytelling, and that is something that people will make alts for. They'll continue.
And there's one thing also and it actually ties into the whole lore concept, which is that one of the brilliant things of it is that it is so internally consistent.
Yeah,
it's very good. It shares a tremendous story, and yes, maybe we don't see direct connections into the movies that we see in the theaters, but it is still a very familiar story that you can participate in.
So for this particular one, although gosh, everybody was so like right in the kind of the same ballpark, I think the fact that it is Star Wars lore and because the storytelling within Star Wars is so compelling, I mean, you can't separate the storytelling from the IP. That I'm going to have to go with Red on as getting the point on this one. So.
So do I get a half a point?
You get so Vulkk and Heather get half a point. All right, so let me go ahead and move on to question 2 here. I asked using just the NPCs that are in Star Wars: The Old Republic. Obviously, Star Wars has a huge amount of NPCs we could have pulled from, but we're just sticking to the ones that are in Star Wars: The Old Republic. Which 2 NPCs fighting each other would be the most interesting fight? I'm not necessarily looking. I mean, obviously. Well, anyway, I'll let you guys battle that out. But which one would be the most interesting? And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Vulkk on this one. What 2 people would you like to see fight?
My choice landed on Revan and Vishyat. It's a little bit boring and at the same time exciting. I know that we will likely never ever see that fight happening or even close to possible, because the players are the ones who eventually will get a chance to defeat the ex-Emperor. But since Revan is alive, everybody expected him.
Just for clarification, so everybody knows who Vishyat is. Vishyat is the Emperor in Star Wars: The Old Republic. So yeah.
He's
the bad guy that we just started hearing more and understanding more about his role and his existence in the latest 3.0 patch and 3.2 now with Ziost. I would love to see how the fight between those 2 would happen, but since it will never actually happen, I would like to see what Revan's role and support will be for the groups, both Empire and Republic, to defeat Vishyat, because that's what's going to happen in the next ops, or maybe in the one after the next. We are going to face the big, ugly, ancient evil, and that's, according to my opinion, that's the only reason Revan is alive. They could have ended his legacy with 3.0 and just leave him to rest in peace. I believe he's going to have a big impact on the last fight, or maybe in the whole story, closing to the big fight with our groups against the ex-Emperor.
So spoiler, why do you think Revan's still alive?
Hold on. So just to kind of get a better perspective, we are kind of thinking outside the box here. We don't have to, or outside the box. We don't necessarily have to actually ever see this fight in game. What is the most?
My guess is unlikely.
Yeah. To be frank, everybody's fight is unlikely. So
pretty good.
it's possible. But anyway, so. What would be so interesting about seeing? What is it about Revan and Vishyat sparring together that would be extremely interesting as a fight in and of itself?
It's an ancient evil, the ultimate evil, as they present it to us already, even though we haven't really met Vishyat, versus one of the most legendary, epic, and well-known characters in the expanded universe. I'm sure that people who have just seen the new trilogy have never heard of Revan. Who the hell is this? Hey, Revan appeared in the teaser for the episode 7. You heard that? So yes. For people who actually read more about the expanded universe and care about the comics and the side stories, and especially they've gone through KOTOR 1, KOTOR 2, and now the Old Republic story, they love Revan. He's gone through good years, bad times. He died a few times. He was imprisoned for 3 centuries, and he's still here. He still survives in one form or another, and he refuses to die. And when someone who actually refuses to die faces something that cannot be killed for thousands of years, well, that's an epic duo. I personally believe Vishyat would totally destroy him, but I have absolutely no clue how would that happen.
All right. That's exactly what I'm looking for here. So, Red, let me turn to you. And which did you pick?
Well, I mean, come on, 2 fan favorites of the game. I had to go with Malgus, and I had to go with Kefis. I mean, It would be an interesting fight. You just can't deny it, right? I mean, you got Malgus, one of the who was in every cinematic leading into the game, and then you killed him in a flashpoint. But you didn't really kill him because you knocked him down a shaft, and we all know that everybody that gets to shaft in Star Wars lives to tell about it.
Yep. Everybody. Okay.
Everybody. Epis, a giant lizard that can't die, even though he desperately wants to. They won't let him die. I would just want to see those two duke it out.
So what is most interesting about that fight? Why is that? I
like it because Kefis is not a Force user, and I like to see somebody who really is tough. He's tough as nails, and you just can't take him down. And you got Malgus, who is, arguably one of the toughest Imperial Sith Lords, prior to his fall. Thank you, Ilum. But even so, I think it would be a really, really interesting fight. And the fact that, he can bring all of these Force powers against him, and you bring Kefis with all of his non-Force powers, but still quite formidable. I just think it would be really interesting to see this lizard go up against a cyborg who doesn't even have a lower jaw.
All right. So last one. We'll go to Heather. Which two did you pick, and what makes their fight interesting?
Satele Shan versus Theron Shan. I thought this would be excellent because it first of all, they are very fleshed out, prominent characters in Star Wars: The Old Republic. I mean, I didn't read anything in the Star Wars universe, so all the story about Revan, it's like, oh, sure, he's in one expansion in the game and a couple flashpoints, but for me, it's not. He's not huge, which, other players would be like, oh my god, Revan is huge. Well, to me, not really, not so much. And with Satele and Theron, right now, they're both Republic, they're both light side, and they're family. And so it would be interesting to see in what situation they would be fighting. It could very well parallel something just like the movies, like Obi-Wan versus Anakin, even though they're not family, or Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. This is a kind of a recurring theme within Star Wars that I think could work very well in Star Wars: The Old Republic. And I don't know, some situations that they could be fighting. Satele gets her mind taken over by the Emperor, which is definitely something possible in the current storyline that could happen. It's also something that is touched on in the Consular story, where there's the big bad Sith is taking over these powerful Jedi, even when that's in the Jedi Council, or Theron Shan defects to the Empire. Who knows? Maybe he likes Lana Beniko. Maybe he likes my Sith that's been romancing him all this time, and he defects to the Empire. Or maybe, they just simply get mad at each other because they've had such family tension for, 20, 30 years, with Satele just blowing him off, even though that's totally his mom. I think there's a lot of story possibilities for this. I think it would be fascinating, just from a psychological point of view, that these two characters, they would be fighting, and also they're just such stars in Star Wars: The Old Republic that I think players would be really excited to.
Okay. I think Heather's brought her A game on this question. So I'm gonna go back to Red real quick and ask about. Because we've already seen Revan versus. Well, we understand the reason why Revan would fight against Vishit. I mean, that was obvious in the Revan expansion that we just had. So, under what circumstances, and this is what I'm really interested in, because Heather kind of brought this to the table. Under what circumstances would Malgus and Kefis have to bout against each other?
Malgus is all about trying to be the next guy to take over the Empire. The Emperor has been supplanted. He is the ex-Emperor. He returns to the scene, and frickin' Kefis, the Undying, shows his face again, and he's like, no, you came from that Dark Council voodoo nonsense. We don't need your business around. I'm going to knock you down one more time while I take over the Empire, and when you come back next time, I'll be prepared because I already got your number.
Okay, so why I want to hear now, since I've heard all your guys' arguments. I want to hear, and you've heard everybody else's arguments. I want to hear why yours is better than the other one. So I'll go. Let me ask Vulkk first. Why is the Revan versus Vishit fight better than, let's say, this Satil versus Theron fight? Why is that?
My quickest answer would be because the outcome is absolutely unpredictable, even though I said I expect Vishyad would win. With Redna's example, we know how to defeat both of these guys. They may not be dead. We know that legendary characters never die in the Star Wars universe. At some point, they always resurrect in flesh, in some form, like Kefes, or as a spirit. Who knows? I'm personally expecting Malgus to be alive somehow. Or maybe return in some form as a spirit. I don't know. After Vishyad, that's going to be the next character. Otherwise, why would we have that huge, lovely, heavy metal figure from the collector's edition box? Why would they want us to have that in our homes if Malgus died in a stupid flashpoint 3.5 years ago? Right, that's the argument why I believe the fight between Revan and Vishyad is better, because it's less predictable, or actually it presents something unseen. Whether as far as it goes, the family fight is something awesome, but I've seen plenty of that in the real life, and maybe that's what would put me off from such an event. I would definitely not like to see them both fight.
So Darth Vader
It is still a lovely Star Wars drama, but for some reason, and because I have to argue, I'm trying to pull my words out. That would be my choice. Yeah, it's a family drama that I wish to stay away from. It's a game, and that's all I can say.
Okay, I like that. Okay, I'll buy that. Red, why is yours better than the other two?
For the case of argument, I've beaten Revan. I already know how to do that. You can go ahead and counterpoint all day long, but the point is I want to see the two of them fighting one another. I could care less. The entire KOTOR series was about Revan trying to eliminate the Emperor in one form or another. This is such a tired, exhausted story, more so than even the frickin' family feuds within the Star Wars universe, because it's been the two of them for hundreds of years. I'm ready to move on to something new, and something new would be a lizard versus Malgus. And the other thing is, every time that lizard comes back, he's got a whole new kit you got to figure out how to beat. Something completely new. And we've only had one chance on a small scale against Malgus. Who knows what he's got up his sleeve when he comes storming Norman back on the beach.
All right, Heather. So why is yours most interesting? Better.
I mean, like I said before, it's a Star Wars story. It's these two family members fighting for God knows what reason. They're also very, very sexy characters in Star Wars: The Old Republic. I mean,
why is yours better than Malgus and Kefis and Revan and Vishyad?
Malgus and Kefis have no reason to be fighting against each other at all. I mean, at least there's some kind of backstory with Satil and Theron that it is more interesting. It's like, oh, well, Lizard and Malgus are fighting. Who cares? But, you just say Satil and Theron Shan are fighting. Well, why? Why? And you want to know right away, why are they fighting? And then you think of all these different possibilities that they could definitely have. And I think they are just much more interesting characters in the game right now.
I think, since that kind of made your guys' final arguments here, I think I'm going to go ahead and make a call on this one. And this was a lot of fun. I really liked this, thinking about all these guys pitted against each other. And I did say that the question was which would be the most interesting, and the most interesting out of these three, I was surprised because I wasn't thinking this whenever I heard it until I heard the argument. Satil Shan versus Theron Shan. I'm going to have to give the point to Heather, because that is absolutely the most interesting. And because
I can't disagree. Like, as soon as you said Satil Shan and Theron Shan, what?
Yeah, because
that is just what?
I guess the argument now is who would win. I mean, you could say Satil would win because she's the Grand Master, but
well, you never know. You never know. I mean, I think that's super interesting. And although I think the Revan versus Vishyad fight would be amazing to see, we've kind of already seen that. And Malgus, I'm not sure that anybody cares. Malgus we care about, but I'm not sure anybody really cares about Kefis anymore.
Are you kidding? People that are waiting for Kefis to come back, they want him in every operation.
I want to see Kef's back. I'm very interested to see how much he's grown. Are we able to see just his feet, or maybe?
Maybe
You've noticed every time we kill him, he grows bigger. Next time he
gets fat. Maybe next time he's like super fat, like a hut or something like that, and all he does is slither around. Anyway, so all right, that was a lot of fun. I like that question. I'm gonna have to ask more of those questions in other episodes. They're great.
That was cool.
So the next question I have is a little bit on the negative side, but because I mean, as everybody's kind of mentioned before, that there is a lot of haters of Star Wars: The Old Republic for one reason or another, and one of the things that haters like to do is to say, "Hey, this game's going to be dead in a year," or "Hey, this game's going to not last
for 3 years." Come on.
Yeah, I know, right? So
it's still growing. Shocking.
So what I asked everybody is, how long do you think the developers can keep SWTOR going, and as a relevant MMO at large? And I didn't want to, because obviously I don't want to go with like when the servers are going to shut down, because quite frankly, Ultima Online is still going, even though there's only a handful of players going and playing, and EQ is still going. So the example I gave was EverQuest, and I said that that EverQuest is a great game, and it did set the standard for MMOs. But for the MMO community at large, it's no longer really making a big impact. No new players are really jumping into it. It's kind of like it's still there for the players that have played it before. So I'm really interested to know how long is SWTOR going to remain relevant, and I'm going to. Let's see. I went with it was Red first last time, so let's go with Vulkk.
It was Vulkk last time.
Or was Vulkk last time? Sorry, Vulkk was last time. We'll go with Red this time. Sorry about that. Red, what is your answer? Why? How long will it remain relevant? You're muted, sir.
So the irony is, this is when I went with, because what was the phrasing was. I would like to know how long you think the developers can keep Star Wars: The Old Republic irrelevant as an MMO at large. This is when I said Star Wars, drop the mic, and you said I had to explain a little bit further.
Yes, that's right.
So beyond that, it's going to continue to grow and going to continue to remain relevant, because people that play MMOs, with the growth of Star Wars as a mainstream in the public consciousness IP, people are going to keep coming to it. New people will keep coming and looking for it, because if they play MMOs and there's all of this Star Wars hype, then they're going to want to come and play the Star Wars MMO. It will stay relevant as an MMO for that very reason. IP and massive fandom currently, while games like WoW and others continue to decline. If we continue to expand on the content that they have, and getting story interjected into the legends that writers can continue to canonize through the novelizations and the comic books and all of these other things, then they should be fine, they should remain relevant, and they should continue growing.
Okay, so pretty much forever then, right? As long as Star Wars is relevant...
Until somebody screws up Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah, as long as Star Wars is relevant, then SWTOR will be relevant. All right.
Disney have the power to screw up Star Wars. You just wait.
Yeah, we did see The Force Unleashed too, right? So anyway, anyway, let's go to. Oh gosh, now I've lost track of which order we go. When am I going to? Heather, right? Yes, Heather. What was your answer?
SWTOR, it's a PvE story-focused game. It blows other MMOs away with their stories and their voice acting, and it as long as no other MMO is even attempting to be doing this type of story content with the voice acting and all these cool cutscenes and all this stuff, I think SWTOR will be relevant just for that reason as an MMO that prominently does story. And I think what will make it even stronger is that I don't think that there are going to be any other IPs that even attempt this, because, of course they made a huge risk spending all this money doing it, but it was for Star Wars. I mean, I think it was a very healthy gamble there to make something very different because it was Star Wars. I don't think there's another IP that would even want to attempt it. And so just for this reason, I think it will be relevant for a very long time until maybe another Star Wars MMO comes out. I think at that point, that's the only reason why SWTOR would become irrelevant, is if they make another Star Wars MMO with the voice acting. I mean, say for example, they did WildStar or something with voice acting. I mean, who cares? I don't even remember what the stories were in there, and they didn't really.
I don't think there was any story in there.
Yeah, there wasn't any story.
Well, there was. I mean, I think the developers at Carbine would like to argue with you about there not being story.
Okay.
But anyway, go ahead.
They can try. They'd be wrong.
That would be a huge risk for say, an IP like WildStar to just come out and say, well,
Yeah.
you know what, we're going to do voice acting too, and then just hope to God that the game does well, because that's a lot of money. I mean, so I think it will be relevant just like Redna said, as long as Star Wars is
I think,
and I mean, if I'm truly going to be saying like a date, say the new trilogy, this is going to be around for like 5 years. So I would say they wouldn't come out with a new Star Wars game until maybe the end of the trilogy.
So yeah, that's what I picked up from your answer. Yeah, that's what I picked up from your answer. That it was like 5 years or the end of the trilogy was kind of your thinking that they would pick up.
And by then I think that they would say, well, hey, the trilogy was very successful, and we've been making this MMO in secret all this time. Here, play in this generation of Star Wars with voice acting. I think that would be huge. And by then, 5 years from now, there would be much better technology and all this stuff to make a really cool game. And so I think that's when SWTOR would become irrelevant.
Excellent. All right, Vulkk, what was your thoughts?
First, I want to mention that I've heard the game being dead before it was released. It was still in beta. Friends of mine who had access to the very early betas, which I didn't have access to, they claimed the game would be dead before it was released because of the too many bugs, the copy engine, and God knows how many other issues. I will be a little bit more exact. Not sure why exactly, but my guess is 2 years. Why 2 years? The game will be relevant. The next year, the next first 1 year, will obviously be because of the hype around episode 7. Whether the movie is good or not, whether the next one, episode, what is it? 8, 9, and so on and so on.
8,
and
9,
the spin-offs, don't forget about those. They might be good, but we don't know about them because they're a little bit too distant in the future. So the hype will be huge in December and throughout the whole year after that. Disney will expand all of their branches. I don't know how to say that. And they will sell Star Wars absolutely everywhere to everybody. Why the second year? Because I believe that the game has a huge player base, very active one, both casuals and more hardcore players, both PvEers and PvPers, even though we know, yes, it's a very heavy focus on PvE and story. But it does offer PvP, and many people who love Star Wars or who don't care about the Star Wars story about it still enjoy the PvP for one reason or another. The second year I give because the game still has a lot to offer. It still attracts many people, and if you can imagine a new person just joining and start playing the game right now, they have a huge, incredible world ahead of them. Many stories, many quests, many instances, lore, and absolutely everything is amazing for them until they get bored. And since I've already played through all of the stories of the game, and some of them more than once, I consider myself more interested in the end game at the moment, and this is lacking. If the developers keep neglecting the hardcore PvPers and not the hardcore, but more serious end game PvE oriented players, they're going to lose. This is the player base that's most vocal. If you want to attract someone new, you want good word on the media and mostly on the internet, because this player base that is mostly unhappy at the moment is the most vocal one. They will just put off whoever new comes and attempt to try the game. For example,
I
they
wouldn't
read an
argue with
article
that.
telling
Okay.
you that there is no content in the game available, the content is bugged, boring, and so on and so on. You just think, okay, I will try the other game. Maybe
I
it's
would have to
better.
say that if the most compelling reason that we decided to play SWTOR is because it's just Star Wars, I would think that there is much more casual players that it doesn't. I mean, you know, I am an endgame player. I care what happens to the endgame, but I think what really keeps them going is all these casual players that come in, and I mean, most players have not played all of the stories, and there's going to be new people
It is
coming
absolutely
all the
true.
time. And I think this is that's why the game will be around, not because there's hardcore players leaving. I don't think that is as important. It's pretty important, but it's not as important. It's not the majority of the players. Even if they are a vocal voice, you know, there's some players that don't even look at guides. They just go in and play with their lightsaber.
Now to be clear, just to maybe you can help frame the argument. I did say relevant versus are people still playing. I just want to throw that back out there too, because people still play EverQuest, but it's not really in like active development. There's not a lot of new people coming to it. Just to clarify that, if you want to make sure that you're framing your argument around that.
Define relevant.
The biggest win for this game, it's really focusing on casual gameplay, and unfortunately, it's more and more oriented towards leveling and story gameplay, solo gameplay. I don't
Which most
mind
MMOs as a whole
having
are,
solo,
transitioning
but
towards.
yes, it's exactly the worst part of an MMO, forcing you to play solo. But in one reason or another, the developers are more and more forced to create solo content because the group content is seriously lacking. First of all, it's lacking new ideas. Second, which is the most important, it's lacking the hardware support. It's really annoying to get a new cool boss or a new cool operation or a flashpoint or whatever it is, group content, and then play it with 10, 15, 20 frames per second. That's not fun. The developers know that. That's one of the reasons why they haven't created recently a new PvP map, because they know that, first, very small percentage of the active players will enjoy the new PvP map. Second, everybody will be complaining about the millions of bugs. And third, everybody will be lacking as hell, because in the last 1 or 2 years, the game saw a lot of graphical improvement, but this costs a lot of FPS, and the engine is definitely coughing blood.
I think if we're answering the question here, how long is SWTOR going to be relevant? I think I'm still absolutely right. It's still going to be relevant as long as there's no other MMOs out there even attempting to do the scale of the class stories and the voice acting and the cinematics. I think people are always going to be referencing, well, hey, there's Star Wars: The Old Republic that did this. You're not just talking to a static NPC and reading text. There's this whole game of everything. It's going to be relevant as long as no other IP is doing this, and I really don't think that there's going to be anyone more successful or would even attempt to spend the money and time and resources on doing this unless it's another Star Wars MMO.
To be clear, is this your answer to the question?
This is my answer.
Okay. Yes, it is. Well, yeah, I mean, she said as long as there's no other Star Wars MMO, that's what I'm getting, right? And so, in you're framing that around, I'm probably about 5 years after the new trilogy comes out is about when we'd see another
that's
MMO.
Not exactly the answer.
Right.
My exact answer is if we forget. Well, this is part of my answer then. Never mind. But I mean, just the voice acting period. If we're just talking, features of the game, people are always going to be referencing that MMO that does the voice acting and cinematics. Not this is what makes it prominent. If you forget about the Star Wars, which of course is times 1 million billion, that's what makes the game relevant because of the Star Wars too. But I mean, if you just look at the voice acting, that's so much stuff that other MMOs just don't have that makes it very relevant that people are going to keep talking about that.
All right.
Define relevance.
Okay, so the way that
relevant as in it
I would
matters.
like the judge to define relevance.
So the way that I would define relevance is and to give the example that I used was EverQuest, is that there's nothing substantial anymore that is being developed around that game. There are no, and I think the biggest, I guess the biggest thing about, let's say, EverQuest that would absolutely define its relevance anymore is how many new players are coming into the game. Honestly, I would say that, and although it's a great game, I don't think EverQuest is attracting new players anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So relevance within the gamer mind and mentality.
Well, it's basically, is it still attracting new players, and is it still in active development?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it's obvious to say that if somebody took everything that this game had to offer and came out with another MMO, but put it onto a better engine and better graphics and everything, then of course that would supplant this game. But okay. I mean, I didn't know that we were supposed to be giving a time frame. We've got years to go. I think it's more than 2 years, quite frankly. This game is still gaining new. This game is still picking up new players constantly, daily. In my live stream, I have people that, because of my stream, are signing up and playing the game for the first time, and they're subbing for the first time because they love what they see. And it's not because I'm just doing operations or whatever. The other thing is, as these new movies come out, the fact that GSF exists is going to be a hidden gem, because you can swing a lightsaber and shoot lightning from your fingers, and there's going to be so many new fans from the movies and everything. This game will remain relevant throughout those movies, and because of the depth of the existing story, those people that come in will not leave for 3 years, because it'll take them that long to get through the story, to play through the game.
Yeah. So the question I'm going to ask then, between yours, Red, and Heather's, is then what? Okay. So at what point, and can you specify a point? Maybe you can't. Maybe there isn't one. But at what point do you think that people will, or how long do you think the hype from the movies will last to keep drawing people in? Or maybe the other possibility is maybe the hype from the movies is way high, and they decide, oh, we're going to make another MMO. Let me go to Heather, since Red just talked. What is your thoughts regarding that? Is it,
That is something that I did mention. I think that is a very, very, very good possibility that, 5 years from now, Star Wars The Old Republic will already be 9 years old. I mean, World of Warcraft is, 10 years old?
Yeah.
I think then, surely, they already know that SWTOR has a very, lackluster game engine. So I think by then this is a huge opportunity for them to come out with a new shiny game that there's so much hype with Star Wars that I think it could be very successful, and they could do it right.
All right. Excellent. What are your thoughts, Red?
Is Star Wars The Old Republic, if it's taken by BioWare and they get a new game engine and through years of development take what they've learned from this game and put it into a Star Wars The Old Republic 2, is that
not
considered the end of the game? Do you think that means that Star Wars The Old Republic has lost relevance because EverQuest had multiple iterations that stood completely alone?
If they make Star Wars 2 or Star Wars The Old Republic 2 or whatever they call it, if they make it with all this cool voice acting, then yes, I think it would
remain relevant.
No, it would make SWTOR, the original game, irrelevant. But this new game, I'm just making up all this.
And since his example was EverQuest, and there was an EverQuest 2, and these are all still just EverQuest, and EverQuest's remaining relevant for a certain period of time, then if a new Star Wars The Old Republic 2 comes out, then I still consider that maintaining Star Wars The Old Republic's relevance.
Okay. No, I'll take that. I'll definitely take that as an answer. And
playing SWTOR if there was a new Star Wars Online.
So
we're just theorizing about a game.
I know. this is great though. I'm down with it. I see. Okay, so I guess the question is creating a sequel if there happens to be a sequel to the game, and Red, you're muted again.
But the thing that becomes truly relevant, that needs to be remembered, is that EA has exclusive game development rights from Disney for all Star Wars movies at this time.
And there is nothing better than BioWare to create the next Star Wars game.
MMO, exactly. So
They
if
have MMO. They have the experience. They've made a lot of mistakes, but they've also learned from them.
So if there's going to be another one
with the sequel, yes, I firmly believe this was a part of my brief answer. I firmly believe in no more than 2 or maybe 3 years we will see the next game. I personally don't believe this engine can last more than 2 years.
Yeah, and this is okay, and this is just based on the arguments, and the reason why I'm going to, and I'm not necessarily thinking that this is right by any stretch of the imagination, but just based on the arguments, because of the compelling reasons of the engine examples and the examples that BioWare has been doing with PvE and PvP and those sorts of things, and also tying in the movies and how there'll be a short period of time where people will be interested in the movies, and then that will die off. I'm actually gonna have to side with Vulkk on this one, and not that I think it's gonna be 2 years, but because of the arguments that he gave regarding the engine, regarding this, and regarding all those different things that he brought up, it does make that argument more plausible. Although I don't think it'll be 2 years. You're probably looking at more like 4. And I've given the point to Vulkk, so everybody has a point. So we're all tied up here. So it all boils down to this last question. And so there's not going to be a bonus question, sorry. But I can throw one at you if you really want me to at the end, just for fun. At any rate,
surprise it.
I'm going to. Let's see who went. Heather went first the first time, so we'll go back to Heather for this next question. I asked, just as I do with just about every show for Massively Opinionated, I asked for them to build an MMO, but however, we already have an MMO this time around. So what I'm going to ask, what I asked this time was, give me 3 key features that are within reason. I didn't. I mean, obviously, we could say, "Hey, let's rebuild the engine," because that would really change everything. But that's not really within reason. We can't really rebuild the engine. So, give me 3 key features that are within reason.
By the way, from all accounts, the kind of money that they're making off of this game, it might be within reason.
I don't. That's well. Anyway, we can. Anyway, that's an argument for another day, I guess. So let's go to Heather first. What 3 key features would you add, or are best to add to the game?
My answer is so long for this. Okay, well, I'm not a game developer, so I'm not sure.
None of us are game developers here, so we'll just.
I don't know how within reason my ideas will be, and also I just wanted to say, this is my first MMO, so I don't have prior experience playing anything else to the extent of SWTOR. Of course, I've played things after I've played SWTOR a lot, and so I really I don't know what other games have as much as maybe these other guys do. But from just playing SWTOR with no diluted opinions or experience playing other games where I could pull ideas from, this is what I think. I think if we're going to be within reason here, I don't think cross-server queuing or mega server is really a realistic thing that we can ask for at this point. But something that the game already has that I think, not that I think, I know it's already being used in some form, is the PTS. The PTS. People are using the PTS for PvP tournaments and all kinds of cool stuff for PvP. So what I think BioWare could do is they could spin this. They could create something similar to the PTS where players could go for PvP. They could play with players from all the different servers, just on this separate PTS-like PvP server that's different from the actual PvP server where you would do, you would go to the other planets and do like open world stuff while you're doing your missions, all that. But there could be this hub where people just go, and this goes along with my second answer too, where things that you do on this little hub PvP PTS thing would copy over to your home server. And I think something like this, they already kind of have it in place with the PTS. I think they would have to do some tweaking. I mean, I don't know exactly what they would have to do or the logistics of that, but it's something that is more reasonable than just saying, okay, well, go make a mega server or go make a cross server queuing. This is something that might be a little bit easier and is already in place. Or even if they don't do it exactly how I described, BioWare themselves could be putting on these PvP tournaments and drawing all these players to this server for just, say, ranked season. Just say, okay, well, it's on this server, so you guys gotta copy your characters for free to this server to do ranked. And oh my god, there would be so many players on there because this is the server that ranked is on. So you gotta go do your ranked here. And PvP, it's different gear from PvE, so it's not like it would affect your PvE game or with your guild on your individual server. So I think this is something that they could realistically do. They would just have to really think about it, but I think it's something that they can do sooner than mega server, sooner than cross server queuing. So that's my first answer. Second, account-wide legacy achievements and datacrons. Oh my god. I am the worst platformer in the world, and for datacrons to be on every single character, on all servers, on my whole account, if I just had to get it once, that would be wonderful. It's hard work. I mean, I know there's lots of players that do it on every single character, but there's just a lot of casual players that just don't have time to do this for all their alts. And something like account-wide legacy and achievements, this is something that the game just needs. I don't want to have to play with my friends on Prophecy of the Five and just have nothing. I don't want to have to transfer a character over there just to copy over my legacy and all of my achievements. This should be something that is just in there. I think if I'm playing on any server in the game, it should be in my achievements. I shouldn't have to only play on one server to get all my achievements. Say, for example, someone is on Shadowlands. They love their PvE guild on Shadowlands, but they PvP on the Harbinger just because there's a population there. Well, it would suck to have them get all these achievements on the Harbinger but not have it transfer over to the Shadowlands. So I think this is something that they should really add to the game that would be very beneficial, and I think this is something that they could also realistically do just by saying everything is account-wide. They already have it in features that you can add, like stuff that you buy from the cartel market is already account-wide. So I'm not sure why they can't do it just for your achievements and all your other legacy benefits. So that's
excellent.
Reason number 2.
All right, number 3. Sorry, go ahead. What was number 3?
Number 3 is more powerful guild tools. I think guilds, this is like the core of the game. This is, for me, my guild is truly why I play Star Wars The Old Republic, or why I play any MMO. When I was in an inactive guild, I just didn't want to play anymore. But once you join a guild that does stuff and they're organized, it makes your whole world go round, and it makes a world of a difference in the game. You're just much more happier with the game. And so by making it easier for guild leaders and officers to manage guilds, like having in-game calendar or guild emails, or like even something simple like whispering from the guild list, which you still cannot do if you're not on the same planet. Just all these organizational things. Not all guilds will have a website to do these kind of things on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of small guilds out there where, there's just 8 guys that they want to know what the operation is, and they might not always catch each other in Mumble or in game to tell each other, besides a message of the day, which might not be enough space to say all this. So I think more powerful guild tools, guilds foster community and friendship, and if people are happy playing with each other, then it's making what truly is the game that the game is supposed to be. It's a massively multiplayer online game. So when people are playing together, I think this makes more people want to play, and more people will join guilds, and more people will want to play just because there's such a community there. And I think by empowering guilds, it just makes people happier. I mean, I know obviously there's lone wolves out there, but I think
I got it. It's very compelling. So let me move on to Vulkk, and what are your 3 key features that you think needs to be added?
Very briefly in the beginning, my 3 features are open world PvP map. Number 1. Number 2 is different specs for PvE and PvP. And number 3 is better operations development. A little bit more about the 3 choices I've made. Open world PvP map is something I've been dreaming about since 2011. Okay, since January 2012, when I first set foot on Ilum, and I was crying, literally. Not just performance-wise, but the objectives, the gameplay, it was horrible, beyond horrible. Since I don't want to let my imagination do stupid things, I would prefer, or I would not like the developers to allow their imagination to do stupid things. I would like to see something similar to the PMVP model from Lord of the Rings Online. It's the game I played before Star Wars The Old Republic. And the open world there was just absolutely the best I've ever seen. My first PvP experience was with Star Wars Galaxies, and doing massive PvP versus 20 versus 20 or 30 versus 30 people with 5 FPS is just beyond perfect. I'm taught, and I've been trained to play with low FPS. 5, yes, and above 30 seconds ability delay. That's fantastic.
Oh, so this is sarcasm.
No, it's absolutely true. That's how we played there. It was kind of similar on Ilum. Maybe a little bit better, but after all, Ilum happened 4 years later. So the PvP model for the open world would allow you to group up, have ganks all over the place, have solo objectives, group objectives, whatever. The objectives are not exactly my primary target and my prime feature that I would like to see. I've always been a solo roamer PvP player. That's what I did in Star Wars Galaxies. That's what I did for about 3 years in LOTRO. I loved doing it. I was really excited and happy about Ilum. And when I saw what a disaster it was in the beginning, and then after the beginning as well, it really kind of put me off from generally doing PvP in Star Wars The Old Republic. Because for the first 5 or 6 months, this was mainly what I was doing. I came as a PvP freak into the game. I love the stories, don't get me wrong. I've done all the stories I mentioned already. I just came with a PvP in mind, and I wanted to enjoy both aspects, but right now, in mid-2015, I'm a lot more focused in PvE, simply because the game didn't offer me the PvP I wanted.
All right.
The second one is different specs for PvE and PvP, and I had in my mind again something similar that LOTRO did just before I quit the game. It was a good thing. It's not the one thing that put me off. I don't need exactly 3 whole different new specs only for PvP. I just need a small tiny icon buffing you and telling you that you are in a PvP environment, and some of your abilities, passives, utilities, or actually active skills will behave differently. This will be enough to stop the nightmare of class changes and constant updates and fixes. If BioWare start thinking differently between PvE and PvP, everybody will be a lot more happy. I believe this shouldn't be hard at all. Every skill should be able to behave different. Like, for example, in PvP, it will give you CC. In PvE, it will not. In PvE, you will do a dot for 15 seconds. In PvP, because everything is about burst, that dot will be the same for maybe 15, let's call it for 5, 6, 8 seconds, just quicker. With the very recent changes, who the hell needs a 15% self-heal on the Watchman and Annihilation 3 for PvE? We have healers to do that for us. This was a very good change, but absolutely only straightforward focus for the PvP guys. And it's awesome. Yes, I would love to heal myself for 15% of my burns all the time. Yeah, I do remember the first months of the game when this was actually considered overpowered. That's the second one. Third one would be more focused towards endgame development, and it's better operation development. That's how I called it. It's not that I don't like the operations. The content is good. The story within the operations are enjoyable. I don't want the story mode to be more challenging. I don't want to have 3 modes. I think story mode and hard mode is just enough, but the hard mode should be closer to what the Ravagers and Temple of Sacrifice hard mode offer today. With this kind of challenge, I'm not exactly sure if the player base needs a nightmare, but I'm moving away from my point. So better operation development to me means less RNG. We've all experienced that more or less in this game or in other games. We need challenge to be equal to skill of the player. We need not exactly puzzles like the puzzle in Karagas Palace, for example, the big droid, where people have to think and act together as a team. But the randomness in specifically nightmare modes up until this very moment is killing the fun. We don't want to rely on our luck and to pray to all the possible gods that this will happen or that will not happen. Also, another thing considering operation development is, again, improvement on the server, not exactly server merging so that we will have better queues in the group finder. I have no clue if the group finder is working still. I haven't used it since 3.0. But better server development would mean that we will not have to jump every 5 seconds to make the server refresh and learn where the hell I'm positioned so I don't get killed by AoE or something else.
Okay.
Those are my 3 points.
All right. So, last, Red, what are your 3 key features here?
PvP needs to be dealt with. He did a good job of describing it. I mean, we could talk all day long about what needs to be done for PvP and the fact that it's just been completely neglected since long before 3.0 came out. It's been neglected since GSF came out. So, and GSF got a lot of wonderful attention, and it was a dynamic, enjoyable environment. It is a robust, incredible PvP environment that doesn't have to balance around PvE either. Please, for the love of God, do not give me PvE GSF, because then it's going to ruin the PvP. But they need to give it attention. They need to put out another game mode, Put in Capture the Flag, which still doesn't exist in any mode in this game. Put it into GSF. Capture the frickin' power core and take it back to your base, whatever. But I'd like to see them expand on that. They did a good job by making the gearing experience more pleasurable, which they absolutely need to do for PvP on the ground. The last I heard, it was like 1% of PvPers, not 1% of the population, 1% of PvPers had full Tier 2 gear still today. So that's pretty pathetic. And I mean, I don't know. I could go on and on and on and on. And we know that PvP needs to be dealt with. They just need to get attention and not just class balance changes. Although, quite frankly, class balance changes, I absolutely agree, should be separate. They need to enable that when they make changes for PvP, they have zero impact on PvE. Period. They do not need to, balance around one another. They need to be independent. I've always felt that the best way to do that is actually through the expertise. Have expertise actually affect your abilities, the power contributions and everything in a different way in order to create balance. And if you need to balance it, then you balance the way that the expertise affects individual abilities. But I'm sure greater minds than I have better ideas than that. But in either way, I think everybody agrees that they just, if they make a change for PvP, it shouldn't have an impact on PvE. In-game guild and group management and organization would go a huge long way. Absolutely. This is supposed to be a massively multiplayer online game. Even if you're, heck, let's go so far as to say, hey, you want to be a solo YOLO. That's awesome. But why not be in a guild? And have, even social systems within chat groups within the guild. Not just member and officer, but let you have, little squadrons or, you've got your 4 friends, you want to be a part of a bigger organization, but you don't want to have to be involved unless you care to be involved, but still be able to talk to each other without having to deal with setting up a /chat channel, There's just so much. A guild calendar, in-game. Any of these in-game things, why the hell do we have to use so many third-party programs when this is freaking... it's Google Docs. Google Docs. And Google Docs is crappy. Its execution is piss poor. But you could put it in the game. It's not hard, and it would be so helpful for people. even just knowing when they're online and offline. And as far as that goes, and PvP in particular too, a lot of it has to do with community. And quite frankly, I'd like to stop seeing lip service and have them talking about dealing with caustic individuals in the community, but actually do something. And I'm not talking about the griefers and the Q dodgers and stuff like that. I'm talking about genuinely horrible human beings that are harassing one another. Rather than inviting them to be a part of their influencers program, maybe they should permanently ban them from the game, which they don't do. Period. And they've been doing, and they're threatening their own employees, but they're not doing anything to these people. So, that's, I'd like to see negative people removed from the game. It's fine that they're dealing with the people that are ruining the ranks, but that's still not going to do it. You need to get bad people out. Beyond that, events need to be improved. Quite simply, if you want something new, fun, and engaging, you need to do something new, fun, and engaging. And that's events. It's something that we have seen. And I want to take this a step further. Events need to be improved. Real events, like the original Rat Ghoul, that expand over time. They're not weeklies. They come out on a regular schedule. They are an event. But yes, it needs to be out long enough that even if you don't pick up that the event is going on until 3 or 4 days in, you still have enough time to finish through the unlocking bits and pieces. If it takes 5 days, then have it out for 3 weeks. It's that simple. But keep it, recurring is fine. I don't mind if it's an event like the original Rat Ghoul event and it recurs. But make it an event, not a rotating set of weeklies. It needs to actually be an event. And quite frankly, there also needs to be one-off events. In particular, when the release of Episode 7 is coming along and you're trying to build off of the hype of something like this, there should be a one-off event. It doesn't need to return. It can be one-off. And all you got to do is frickin'... The end of it is that you get a cross-guarded lightsaber. Whatever.
So what I need to measure here, a couple things, because I think we kind of have established, well, not necessarily in Vulkk's answer, but definitely in Heather's and in Red's answer, that we are not, that Star Wars: The Old Republic is not dealing with guilds well, and there needs to be improved tools there. So, but
right, and in particular, and actually to Vulkk's point, the guild features need to be bolstered, improved, and basically, I mean, there's plenty of resources where you can just look at what anybody else is doing with guild resources, and these should be low-hanging fruit. They said they wanted to deal with low-hanging fruit. This is not hard stuff, especially when we saw from Olib's analytics post that he did that interview with the analytics. I mean, they can do live analytics like this on the fly. They can easily put in this kind of stuff for the guild. Frankly, they've got the database powerhouse set up, ready and going for it. They can do it. But the other thing is, we have seen with 3.0 a fundamental shift that is driving people into playing solo, flat out.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Hardcore, you can do every single flashpoint. So what I want to know then, particularly because the reason I think that guild stuff should be put in there is because it's fine that they're encouraging and enabling the solo player to actually experience all this content, but you need to balance it by enabling the people that actually want to play with their friends.
Absolutely. And so one of the things I want to kind of differentiate here, because oh my gosh, there's really there's only like one thing that each one of you guys have that is different from something that somebody else has. And with Heather, it's although the cross server thing, she has actually two of them. She has the news server, or however you want to phrase that. The news.
Although frankly, that's a PvP solution.
Yeah, but it is a PvP solution. But yeah, she has the account-wide achievements, and the Vulkk. Really, the biggest thing that stands out is the improvements to operations and group content, and events is kind of Red's. So what I would like to do is kind of focus on those things, those three items. Unless I'm wrong. I mean, you can feel free to tell me that. But and kind of figure out the differentiation between that and which one is kind of the more important. Is it events that is going to help carry this game along more? Is it going to be operations and end game that is going to help carry this along more? Is it going to be, making things a little more account wide and make things easier for people to do? I mean, because Heather's thing wasn't. I mean, yes, it's account wide stuff, but it's because it makes things easier to play with other people and jump around with different characters. So, Heather, why is the account wide achievements and those kinds of things better than, say, or needs to take primary focus over operations or, say, over events? Go ahead. What do you think about that?
The question was a feature to greatly improve the game overall. I pick this because majority of players do not do operations. They do not do end-game content or a lot of advanced content, and I think account-wide legacy achievements and datacrons, this is something that will affect all players, no matter if you're playing alone or you never do operations. If you like to play on different servers, I think this would benefit the most people. Besides, I mean, I think operations are good. They could do a little bit of work with their melee player encounters, but I mean, overall, I really like the operations. So I think they should be focusing more on these quality of life things that will affect the most players. And the question was greatly improve the game overall. So that's what I would argue. And that is very important to many, many players to be able to not have to start over on every server for everything, or have to pay money to transfer their character just because they want all their stuff on all the different servers. I mean, people want to play with their friends. They don't want to have to pay to play with their friends to have all the benefits that they have on their home servers. So I think this is very, very important to have in the game, to add to the game.
Vulkk, so tell me about why operations, like why maybe better end game stuff, less RNG, those more skill based things for end game and obviously server performance. Why that is better than new events, the way that Red described them.
It's not necessarily better, but I personally consider it important because not everybody is willing, ready, or have the time to play through 15 characters with their different 16 characters with their different stories if they want to experience absolutely everything the game has to offer. There are many people who start casual. They got hooked up with the story of the character that they've started playing. They've enjoyed it so much that they've decided, oh, okay, I want to keep playing this one. What do you have to offer me? Operation development doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be exactly endgame. The story mode versions of these operations are fantastic, and I personally enjoy the story in them, but they need to be a lot more and better connected with the story of the game. It doesn't necessarily need to be a continuation like the Tempo operation. The Ravagers one is a perfect example, but the story was seriously lacking within it. The content was fun, the fights were challenging enough for the casual player base in story mode version. It just needs to be more connected to the game, and this is the best group story that the game has to offer to anybody. This is the top of the top.
Why is this more important, or should be higher on the priority list than events or making more achievements and basically legacy kind of things? Account-wide.
Given our previous experience with the events we've already went through, most of them are solo-based. Unless BioWare changes their policy and start developing group content as an event, whether it's a specific flashpoint available just for 1 week through the month, or a heroic instance or something else. These are all solo-based, and MMO is about bringing people together.
So I want to hear one last time here from Red. Why are events more important than like the in-game focus and that Vulkk was talking about? Why are events maybe more important than making legacy account-wide?
Well, first, so Vulkk, you've full cleared all the hard modes?
Yep.
Welcome to the 0.1%.
Not.
Oh, okay, you haven't. Well, if you haven't finished it yet, then I just don't have anything to provide you.
I do have a couple of bosses I haven't killed, and also one in Nightmare.
Okay, well, until I finished it, I've got nothing to complain about, and I haven't finished it either. It's that simple when it comes to operations, so it's not that important yet. And quite frankly, we know that it's less than 0.1% of anybody that's playing the game is doing it. And beyond that, it's a percentage of the population that even worries about hard modes at all. As it goes for the account-wide legacy achievements, yeah, totally would love it. But once again, I'd say the number of people that actually want to use it is about the same as those people doing hard mode operations. It's a small percentage of the population. The vast majority of the population is the casual player, is the solo player. There are more people playing this game solo than there are that are really dedicated to working together. They may be in guilds, but they might prefer to just sit and chat and talk with one another while they play the game. Events, quite frankly, I've never done an event solo. I've always got friends with me. Yeah, they're designed to be done solo, but I play with my friends because I want to play with my friends. It doesn't matter how the content is designed because the game is designed for me to be able to do it with one another. And that was my whole point, is because it doesn't necessarily have to be level gapped or anything if you want the most people. And quite frankly, a changing dynamic game and environment can be achieved through achievements. It can make you feel like you're getting more content. And the irony is the number of people in the past week when Bounty Hunter event was going on that were excited. They were thrilled. Oh, thank goodness Bounty Hunter event is back. I wanted to get this, that, and the other so that I can buy this thing off of the vendor or whatever. I have not done the Bounty Hunter event since the second time it was out. I haven't, because I hit Legendary, Yeah. And I just didn't care. And I'd actually had enough tokens saved up that I bought one of each decoration for my prestige bonus for my strongholds. But people love it.
I think I have come to a decision here, and I think that the biggest thing that compelled me to this answer, even though I think that, quite frankly, all of these need to happen. I really like the honestly, all of these need to happen, and I really like the idea of a tournament server. I think that that's a wonderful idea. However, I think what really kind of swung me one direction or the other is because Red said the more players would be affected by better events because of because of what the populace is, and it would also draw more people into the game. So I'm going to have to give the point to Red this time around, and that means that Red wins the game. So so congratulations, and as a prize for winning the game, you get to go first to give your plugs for the world.
First and foremost, it was a pleasure being on here with Vulkk and Heather. Genuine enjoy it. I hope this was all in fun. Of course, you guys had amazing ideas, and it's like I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, you need to defend it this way. You're not mentioning this. Like, straight up, Vulkk, all you had to say was Star Wars, lightsabers, and lightning, and you could have won question number 1. That's it. But anyway, I'm really excited. I would love it if anybody and everybody would check out itsatrappodcast.com. That is with 2 P's. It's spelled properly. itsatrappodcast.com. Otherwise, you can actually go into iTunes, look for It's a Trap. If you're in any of your podcatchers or whatever, if you see an icon with Admiral Akbar riding on a cannon, lighting the fuse with a lightsaber, that's my podcast. It's a baby of mine that I'm really proud of, really excited about, and it's all about Star Wars canon, the genuine canon. So much has been made legends. We are covering the canon and breaking it down into bite-sized pieces so that if there's something that you missed, we can fill you in. If you've actually consumed it and you want to hear our thoughts, you can listen to it. It's kind of like a quasi-book club spoiler show. Each episode is titled appropriately, so our first episode out was A New Dawn. That's the novel we read, and we spoil it for you. But if you've read it, you can hear our thoughts. And if you don't want to, you can hear our thoughts and see what you missed. Anyway, that's what I'm most excited about. It's a Trap Podcast.
All right, let me go to Heather. Where can people find you around the internet?
You can find me on my SWTOR podcast. It's, oh my god, I was about to say It's a Trap. Corellian Run Radio. Corellian Run Radio, our most recent episode, we spoke to their newest Bioware Austin community member, Nicovola. So he's been kind of incognito on the forum, so if you're unfamiliar with him, you might want to take a listen and see what he's about, what he does for the company, and for the game. So that's Corellian Run Radio. I also write a blog called PrettyLittleSif.com. It's a lot about SWTOR, but it's also a lot about me and what I like.
All right, and Twitter, you can find her Heather _ the underscore is not showing up.
Twitter.com/Heather _PLS or at Heather _PLS.
All right, excellent. And Vulkk, tell us where can we find your stuff and what have you been doing?
Most of what I do is related to my YouTube channel and Twitch live stream. My name on both of these platforms is the same, Vulkk SWTOR, without spaces, without underscores or anything. I'm trying to be as social as I can on both Twitter and Facebook, again as Vulkk, trying to make it simple for people to connect with me everywhere with the same name, so I can be easily distinguished. Oh, this is this one, Vulkk, and I want to curse him for doing this or for saying that.
All right. So on Twitter, Vulkk VULKK, and then
with the double K everywhere.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. And I had a lot of fun during this show. I think it's great. Obviously, Star Wars: The Old Republic is my favorite game right now, and
with all of its problems, I still think it's the best MMO.
I completely agree. I completely agree. So, and I think everybody here on this panel agrees with that. So, and if you're looking
We're a little biased.
Huh? We're all biased. Yeah, we're totally biased. So, all right, if you're looking for more of what I do on the internet, you can catch me on Twitter at Shadow SHADDOE. I also write the Hyperspace Beacon here on Massively. You can also catch me at hyperspacebeacon.com. You can also catch It's a Trap podcast on hyperspacebeacon.com as well. And let me see. Well, I do the comic here. I do Sword and Board, the comic on Massively OP, and all sorts of fun stuff. Obviously, this happens every single week. It comes out on Wednesdays, so check that out on YouTube. You can follow Massively OP on YouTube, or just go to massivelyop.com and find out all the information you could possibly ever want from MMOs. Thanks a lot to my guests, and I'm so glad you did this weird timing so we can get everybody together, and I really appreciate that. And thanks for coming on. This has been a great show, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.